Okay. So let's talk about some of your bigger interviews. The biggest of which I feel is Kobe Bryant. Now, this was actually one of your events.
Yes.
How did you get Kobe?
So how did I get Kobe? So for me, when I wanted to start building a reputation on getting bigger speakers at our event, I'm always been about sequencing. Like right now, I got a book coming out called Choose Your Enemies Wisely. A book coming out called Choose Your Enemies Wisely. And this book is purely about, business planning, because there's not a single book on Amazon right now you can buy to recommend somebody for business planning. Everything is super technical. So you can give somebody a book to read on YouTube by Sean Cannell. You can recommend somebody to read a book on leadership, John Maxwell, Lincoln on. You can recommend something on marketing, plenty of them. There's not a book you can recommend an athlete, a businessman, a startup, a billionaire, a politician that's business planning on how to go. So choose your enemies wisely. But the first book I wrote was Your Next 5 Moves. Everything in my mind is sequencing. So I said, I want to get Kobe. I made a video in 2010 dressed as the Doc from Back to the Future. I put an event together called PHP to the Future. In this video, it's fascinating. It's not public. I showed it recently at an event. I'm saying how one day we're going to have the greatest comedians at our event. We're going to have Kobe Bryant there. We're going to have presidents there. This is in 2010 when I'm saying this. So in my mind, I said, I got to get to Kobe. Kobe's born August 23rd, 78. I'm October 18th, 78. I love Kobe. I love Shaq. Shaq and I are very good friends now, but I love Kobe. Shaq, yesterday, we're talking this morning, he sends a message to Dylan to say, Dylan, congratulations on scoring 6 goals yesterday. But Shaq and I had a follow now because of Kobe interview. So I said, we're first going to get James Worthy. James comes in. I interview him in 2010, 2011. I said, great. Then we're going to get Magic Johnson. Magic comes in to our Dallas event in 2013, 2014. So then Magic's interview does well. Worthy's interview does well. And then Gretzky comes. And then while we're doing these interviews, and a friend of mine here is connected to Kobe, I tell him, hey, let Kobe know. He says, no, Kobe knows what you're doing because Kobe saw the Magic interview. I said, great. So we talk to Kobe's camp. They finally agree. Kobe decides to come out. We're at the event, same event that Kobe's speaking, President Bush is speaking at. So I got Secret Service galore everywhere. Everybody has to come through, what do you call it? Metal detectors. It's everywhere. And there's these special stickers everybody's wearing that in case you're part of the Secret Service duty crew. And Kobe comes in. I'm in the room. He comes in. Hey, what's up, Patrick? What's up, Kobe? My wife is there. He's talking to my wife for 15 minutes. He's talking to Dylan for 10 minutes. He's talking to my nephew, Sean, for 10 minutes. And he says, so you get nervous about doing these interviews? I said, no, not really. It's not me neither. I said, well, of course not you. You played in front of, God knows who you played in front of. And then we sit down and we have the best conversation together. And then a lady comes in, probably mid-70s, white lady, very nice dressed. She walks up, he walks up. They give a hug like it was like a grandmother giving a grandson a hug. It was such a beautiful thing. I don't know who she was. But you're watching this guy because it's Kobe. And we're about to go hit the stage. I get up. I make the intro. He comes up. We sit down. There's 6,000 people. 1,000 people rush to the stage. I had to stop the interview. I said, I'm going to get Kobe off the stage here. If you guys can go back to your seats. I'm going to call security. Security comes in. I said, I ask you politely, go back to your seats. They go back to their seats. Kobe feels more comfortable. We have the nice conversation together. And then the rest is history. We were actually, right before, when he passed away, we were in communication. We were following each other's stuff. I wanted to do stuff with the guy. But I remember where we were at when he died. We're at Seasons 52 in Plano, Texas. Everybody's at lunch. Phones start sending alerts. Kobe Bryant, CNN, Fox, ESPN. I said, this is another one of these walkers. It's got to be a lie. This can't be real. And then friends are calling. Everybody's texting. We're checking. News says it. ESPN says it. Holy frickin'. Then Dylan's here next to me. My friend, it was a very weird moment when that took place, obviously, with Kobe. But yeah, till today, I think that's number one all-time interview for me.
Yeah, I actually watched the whole interview before we met up today. And what was interesting in that interview is that you asked Kobe what his plans are for the next 20 years. And he had big plans.
He had big plans.
He was not like one of these, I'm done with basketball. I'm just going to spend my hundreds of millions and get fat. And, no, he actually had plans. He even said that his next 20 years are going to be bigger than his last 20 years. And I mean, it's just, that's the thing about death. It's like nobody plans for it. Everyone's thinking that, hey, I'm going to do this tomorrow. I'm going to do this next year. And I was living in Calabasas, literally down the street from the crash.
Yeah.
And I remember we all walked down to as far as we could walk until the police lines.
Wow.
Yeah, man, it was a sad day, especially in LA.
Yeah.
Especially in LA. What was also interesting about this interview is that Kobe basically said that Shaq could have been the greatest basketball player of all time if he had the work ethic, during the whole Shaq-Kobe feud. And I guess that's why Shaq got mad at you?
Shaq blocked me for 3 years. I was blocked for 2.5 years. Shaq DM'd me immediately and he says, what kind of a stupid-ass question is that? Why would you ask a question like that? Go do something with your small-ass company. I'm like, Shaq, it's a great question. And
small-ass company.
So,
well, compared to Shaq and his kind of a small-ass company.
I told him, I took it. I'm like, dude. So I'm like, okay, does Shaq realize my first big card ever was your card? I mean, I celebrated the Stadium Club card. I'm like, okay, we're going to figure this out. We'll find a way to rekindle the relationship. So now everybody's lobbying and saying, no, hey, Shaq, you got to let Pat interview and all this stuff. I'm talking to WME. I'm talking to everybody, trying to make this work. Eventually, he agrees. So we're at the event. We're about to do this interview. Shaq's agent, who's a good friend of mine, the guy that connected us, Adam, who's been doing business with us for 13 years, he says, Shaq wants to see you. I said, okay. So I go to the back. I'm like, hey, what's up, Shaq? He says, it's still a stupid-ass question. I said, Shaq, I'm telling you, it's a good question. I said, that's a dumb-ass question you ask. I said, Shaq, you got to be. I said, you can't say something like that. Do you realize I already had a bunch of kids, and he didn't have kids, and I was doing this, and I was at a different phase of my body. I'm like, listen, totally get it. You're moving a 400-pound body. He's moving a 220-pound body. Fair enough. But then we went on stage, and we had one of the coolest interviews. It's the only interview I've ever done where the guest asked my son, Dylan, to come on stage, and Dylan sat on my lap for the hour interview, and he stayed there the entire time while I'm talking to Shaq. But yeah, with Shaq today, I'm hosting an event next week. Shaq's actually sending his daughter to spend the day with us at this event. Our relationship today is a different story. But if it wasn't for that Kobe interview and the question, I probably wouldn't have the relationship I got with Shaq today.
Yeah, I talk to Shaq sometimes also. He's been promising me an interview for like 5 years. He always says, I got you. Hasn't happened yet.
You got to go to him.
I'll go wherever, man. I'll fly out. Shaq, I know you're hearing this right now. Come on, let's do this interview. It's going to be, because something back in the day, the way I met Shaq was I was a mixtape DJ and I met one of his friends and he was like, oh, Shaq wants to do a freestyle on your next mixtape because he's a fan of your mixtapes. Oh my gosh. This was 2004.
Is he Orlando? Is he Lakers? He's gone.
He's gone. This was right. Because the whole thing of the freestyle was that he dissed Kobe on that, there was a line saying like, yeah, you're like Kobe wishing to be as high as me, even though you get me traded or something like that. And since I wasn't a huge basketball guy at that point, it kind of went over my head, but then it's on ESPN and it's on MTV and everything else like that. And
that's when he had 4 and Kobe had 3.
Exactly.
Hey, Kobe, you can't win without me. It was a line like that.
Something like that. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, me and Shaq actually go way back. So it's kind of interesting, kind of the 1 degree of separation in these stories.
By the way, he's one of the coolest cats out there. Mm-hmm. Like, how you meet celebrities and famous people.
No, he's very cool.
He's one of the coolest cats out there. Yeah.
I'm not bashing Shaq right now on any level. I admire him a lot. And not only his basketball career, but his business acumen is intense. And his work ethic. The fact that he's still on TV. Like, you don't have to do anything. Like, what is he? He's probably a billionaire.
You know what's most important to him? Being a father.
Yeah.
That's the most important to him, being a dad. It's where he and I connect very well.
I feel you, man. Shout out to Shaq.